bless you, everyone, and welcome to another week of the Pastor's Speaks. Okay, I'm not 100% today. I feel a little bit stuffed up, etc. But I believe that God is my healer, and I know that He's sustaining me. So please do just keep me in your prayers, for I want vibrant health. In fact, I want to be overflowing in health. So please remember me in your prayers. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the widow of the prophet whose sons were about to be taken and sold as slaves in order to write off her debts. And she went to the prophet and he instructed her. Well, in fact, before he instructed her, he asked of her, "What do you have in your house?" And it's very important, that we have something in our house. It's not that God needs something to do a miracle necessarily, but we must always have flesh in the game, okay? And so he instructed her to pour the oil and to fill all the containers. And then we know the result was that she was able to pay off all of her debts and live on the balance. How amazing is that? Can you see, when it comes to miracles, there is usually some kind of human participation. Our expectation from God is very key, but God also wants us to work alongside with Him. And so I want to link what I'm going to talk about today. It's not exactly the same thing, but I want to link it because I think it's important that we are always ready to act on God's instructions and to obey what He says. And so in Matthew chapter 14, we hear about the feeding of the 5,000 people with the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. And that is very miraculous in itself. So I'm going to read for you. And it says, verse 15, I believe, Now when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place." It took them all day to work out that they were in a desolate place. "And the day is now over. Send the crowd away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves." That sounds a lot like us, in the sense of, we haven't got the money to feed these people. Oh my God, we need to get rid of them. But they didn't want to tell the people. They wanted Jesus to send them away. They didn't want to be the bad guys. But Jesus, always knowing what's in our hearts and in our minds, He said, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. I thought that was hilarious. I could just see the disciples now having an apoplectic fit. How are we going to feed these people? He asked them what they had. And they said, well, there's a lad here, with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But I don't think they said it in an excited way. They were probably thinking, well, that's not going to do it. So we didn't think we should mention the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. But Jesus said, bring them here. It's like the widow saying, I've got a little container of oil. Fat lot of good that's going to do. I can just hear the disciples saying, yeah, we got 5 loaves and 2 little fishes, tiny little sardines. Fat lot of good that's going to do. But did you notice that Jesus did not skip a beat? He said, bring them here. Oh my gosh. And this is the same thing that we need to do when we have challenges, when we have problems, when we have things that we don't know the answer to. We don't even know how we're going to get out of it. We're to bring them to Jesus. So then, after they brought the fish and the loaves to Jesus, He then gave them further instructions. He ordered the crowd to sit down. It's hard to work in disorder. So the crowd was instructed to sit down on the grass. And then Jesus took the 5 loaves, the 2 fish, and he put his eyes where our eyes should always be fixed. He looked up to heaven. Oh my gosh. And he said a blessing. We don't have a recording of the words that he said exactly, but he blessed the bread. He blessed the fish. I imagine he also thanked his father and thanked him that he was with him in this situation, and that what he was asking for him to do was just a little thing in God's eyes, to feed this crowd of people. And then I want you to listen very carefully to what Jesus did next. He broke the loaves, gave them to the disciples, and instructed them to feed the crowd. I can imagine how dismayed the disciples might have been, because here they took the piece of bread and fish and they're thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to look like idiots. But then they looked at each other and they noticed that all of them were holding bread and fish. Now, this is my license, okay? Doesn't say this in the Bible, but I can imagine that I've got 2 hands and one is full of fish and one is full of bread. But hang on, so is the other disciples. Their hands are also full of fish and bread. But notice, please be very careful to notice that the bread and the fish did not begin to multiply until Jesus broke it. Then the disciples, in obedience, because of lack of any other ideas, they began to distribute the bread and the fish. And as they distributed, they noticed that their hands were still full of fish and bread. And they kept going till everybody had received their portion. Then the scripture says they all ate and were satisfied. You know, they were satisfied. They were satiated. They couldn't eat anything else. They didn't have room for dessert. That's what God will do in your life. All of your needs will be supplied in this year of abundance and overflow out of his riches in glory. You will lack nothing. In fact, you will not have the capacity to take on any more. The scripture said, and they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces that were left over. Everybody ate. Everybody was satisfied. And they had extra left over for another meal. For all the people, the 5,000. Not just another meal for a few, but for 5,000 more. God is a God of multiplication, not division. He multiplied the fish and the loaves. And so even when you feel that you're at rock bottom, you don't have much to go on, give it to God. Let him multiply it in your life. And he will, whether it's a little bit of money, or it's a little bit of talent, or it's a bit of rice, or a bit of oil, or even 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Our God will multiply it. He will meet your need. So again, in this year of abundance and overflow, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not to your own understanding, but acknowledge him in everything that you do, every situation that you find yourself in. Become a person of prayer who prays about everything before they make any move, and you will see the miraculous power of God at work in your life. So until next week, I will see you in the next Pastor Speaks. God go with you. God bless you. God keep you. And may his face shine upon you and give you his peace.